everyone, this is Margarita with you. For those who don't know me yet, let me remind you that I am a specialist in overseas real estate at Nef Real Estate. Our company deals with real estate all over the world, whether for personal residence, obtaining a residence permit, or citizenship, or for investment purposes. Right now, I am in Thailand on the island of Phukhet, where I met with my colleague Alexander, who has lived in Phukhet for many years and knows absolutely everything about real estate here, how to choose the best property, where it's best to invest your money and what to pay attention to. Hello, Alexander.
Hi, Margarita. Thank you very much for such a detailed introduction. Yes, I have been living in Phuket for a very long time. It's already been more than 6 years, and I've been working in real estate here. I really love what I do. That's the honest truth.
We are at a villa right now because recently there has been significant increase in demand specifically for villas, not for apartments or condos, but for villas. In other words, people want to buy houses. And today we're going to talk about what to pay attention to when buying a villa.
Yes, what to pay attention to, what nuances there are, the hidden pitfalls. I'll talk.
What risks there are.
What risks there are, yes. The ideal scenario is to turn to a specialist who will help you with everything and take into account all the nuances of your needs, minimizing any risks. But of course, very often we want to at least immerse ourselves a little in the context to understand things ourselves, to do something on our own, to be involved in the process ourselves. So in general, I always say this. The real estate market is actually quite simple. What should you pay attention to? Just like anywhere else in the world, check whether the developer actually owns the land, how well the team knows what they're doing, and how long they've been in the market. Pay attention to the projects they've already completed. And of course, there are legal nuances and details, like whether all the permits are in order, and whether, for example, the land is under any kind of lien or collateral.
Simply put, the first thing you really need to do is choose the developer. If you come to Phuket, you will see a huge number of banners and advertisements. There are a lot of villa complexes being built right now. But how do you choose a truly worthy property, one that will actually be high quality? First and foremost, you need to pay attention to the quality of construction and, of course, the developer's reputation.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. And as usual, in real estate, it's always location, and once again, location. That is also very important. And that's basically why you and I are here at this place. This is the Bangtao beach area. In my opinion, this is the best place on the island for a number of reasons. You know, it's like people usually say, this area will develop soon. But this area is already developed. Everything you need is already here. And that's thanks to the landscape features, because the mountains are far away and most of the area is flat. Phuket, of course, is a small tropical island, but even within Phuket, there's still plenty of room to grow. And here, the development of the island continues, and the development of this area will continue as well. There's a lot of construction going on here. The pace is much faster than the island's average, and prices are rising. And of course, all of this is thanks to demand, thanks to the fact that many people have already chosen this area.
And it's true, this area is called the Millionaire's Valley.
Yes, this is one of the places where some of the most expensive real estate is concentrated. We have several such locations. Here, this is probably the largest one.
It's also worth noting, I think that Bangtao Beach is the longest, the biggest beach.
It's the second largest, yes, the second largest. There's also Macau Beach, but it's very secluded, very quiet, and it will stay that way because there's a large national park there. And here, yes, besides the fact that it's big, it's the second largest, it's 8 kilometers long. Also, most of the buildings here are low-rise, so even at the peak of the season, even when everything is completely packed with people, the beach itself still feels calm and spacious because the density of people is low, where there's room to spread out. Yes.
But most importantly, all the infrastructure is here.
Yes.
There are pharmacies, shops, restaurants, boutiques, everything, absolutely everything is here. Kindergartens, schools as well.
Yes. Kindergartens, schools, golf courses, tennis courts, and well, absolutely everything. You can come here, spend a month, relax, get a lot of emotions and pleasure, move here to live and enjoy comfort with good shops nearby, with great service, and not feel deprived of anything at all.
So we'll tell you a bit more about the villa in detail a little later. Let's talk about the purchase process. So what is needed to make a purchase? Is it possible to complete the transaction remotely?
Yes, look, right now, the majority of our transactions are done remotely, at a distance. People, including those buying villas, are making their choices without coming here. This option has always been available, and basically nothing has changed now. It's just that there are more requests now. Also, well, we live in the age of advanced technology. You and I are answering now. After a while, we'll upload all this, and people will be able to watch it from anywhere in the world. Accordingly, we first try to understand the client's needs. What's important to them? We offer properties for now in the format of, well, not just conditionally, but in the format of presentations with photos of the locations and so on. We select a certain number of finalists, then we meet in this kind of live communication format, only online, show the project, and then we make the final choice, make the final decision, negotiate, agree on the terms, and start the purchase process. These are the important points right now that are worth paying attention to, things that people worry about, a lot payment process. Payment is done via a regular SWIFT transfer, which has been working absolutely fine and smoothly for the past year and a half, even longer. On average, we process about 2 transfers per week, and there was only 1 return, and that was due to a bank error. So the money was returned, we found a mistake, the bank refunded the commission and we sent the payment, and the money arrived. In other words, there was only 1 case of a refund, and even then it wasn't due to any sanctions or anything like that.
The main thing is to prepare the entire set of documents correct. And of course, we will always help you with that.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, the coordination of all documents in electronic form as well. Once everything has been agreed upon between the developer, the real estate agency, everyone is on board, the contract is prepared on paper and sent out. We have several cases where people bought property remotely, received ownership remotely, rented it out remotely, and are receiving income. In other words, they never even came here. This is a completely turnkey solution that is entirely possible. But this option is really more for experienced investors or for people who completely trust us.
By the way, speaking of investments, when it comes to living, it's Clera Villa, your own house. That's wonderful. But what about for investment purposes? Previously, it was more common to invest in several apartments and rent them out. So how do things stand with villas?
The market really started to change a lot because of COVID, and many people switched to remote work, moved and began working remotely. Many business owners realized that it's not necessary to be near their office and that they can manage everything remotely. That's why demand for villas has increased, while there are fewer villas available. And that's why, in terms of investment, villas are now more attractive than apartments. If we were talking back in 2019, I would have said, let's get 5 apartments, don't worry about it, they'll all rent out just fine. They keep giving in, they keep doing good work. But right now, villas are super liquid assets. For example, we were talking about this off camera. There is such a shortage of good villa options right now that some people bought the show villa from this developer for their own residence. So how does this work? The developer selects a plot of land and builds the first villa on it, which becomes the show villa. And then construction takes place around this villa for about a year to a year and a half. And our clients, there is such a shortage of real estate that they paid for it. By the way, we can go to this villa now. It's all surrounded. People are living there. It's not a show villa anymore. That's how bad the shortage is. We're willing to put up with such inconvenience simply because there is a very serious lack of available options. And this shortage applies both to buying and, in fact, to renting as well. That's why villas are now more liquid, more attractive, and their prices are rising faster, especially in quality development.
And if we're buying for investment purposes, that is to rent it out, then you need some kind of management company, right? Someone through whom you can rent out this villa. What additional expenses does the buyer incur?
So as a rule, developers are very flexible when it comes to villas. They don't restrict owners in their choice of management company. That is, it can be the developer's own management company or it can be an independent management. For example, we or the owners themselves can come and rent out their villa, buy 2 or 3 and rent them out as a hobby. I also have clients like that who came, but certain quality of property and are successfully renting it out. So when it comes to choosing a management company, it's entirely up to what is most comfortable for the owners themselves. As for additional expenses for villas, right now it's actually quite an interesting situation. The maintenance costs have gone down. In other words, prices used to be high. So the purchase price has gone up, rental prices and rates have increased, but for some reason maintenance costs have gone down. Apparently this is due to competition. Maybe it's because many companies are taking on villa maintenance. I'm talking about the internal pattern. The developers are undercutting prices to make sure owners stay with them. So on average, a villa will cost per month. This is inevitable. This is an expense you can't avoid, and it will be from $350 to $450 a month. But at the same time, for example, a beauty like this one can be rented out in peak season for around $30,000.
Per month, right?
Per month, yes. So people tell me I had a situation where they said we need 4 villas, 4 bedrooms each for peak season. I said about $1 million. They said not to buy, to rent. I said to rent $1 million. So a villa like this can cost around $1 million during peak season, which is about $30,000.
That's great.
That's a normal price, yes.
And what about taxes? What kind of taxes are there?
Look, what makes Thailand interesting and attractive is that the maintenance costs here are low and the tax rates are also low. For example, so for land, the tax is basically negligible for land. It's about $15 per year. For the building itself, it's about 0.02% of the value. So that's somewhere around $100 to $130 per year in taxes. Thailand is really an awesome place overall. People come here all year round, real estate gets filled at high prices, and at the same time, the expenses are very, very reasonable.
Oh, another very common question from our buyers. What does purchasing real estate give you? Meaning, does it allow you to get a residence permit or obtain a resident visa? Are there any advantages?
Yes, absolutely. Thailand is actively attracting foreign investment, and of course they're trying in every way to attract wealthy people, people with money, and to offer them all sorts of preferential conditions. Therefore, when you purchase real estate worth at least $300,000 or invest at least $300,000 in the Thai economy, you can obtain an investor visa. This visa is issued directly to the investor and the immediate family members, husband, wife, and children. It is granted for 1 year. It is a multiple entry visa. In other words, you can leave and enter an unlimited number of times, and as long as the money remains in the Thai economy, this visa can be renewed annually.
And there are no additional expenses required, so it's automatic as long as you purchase property worth at least $300,000?
Well, there will be a small initial fee for processing, but after that...
So for legal services?
Yes, for legal services, yes, exactly.
Well, that's really great. And since we've touched on the topic of legal services, let's talk about ownership forms. Is it possible to purchase a villa with full ownership? That is, so that both the land and the house are fully owned by you?
So at the moment, this option does exist, but foreigners cannot own land directly. They can only do so through company ownership. In other words, the scheme, I'll try to explain it now, is actually quite simple. The owner, the future buyer, sets up a legal entity, say a limited liability company. And in this company, well, not exactly in this specific Thai LTD, but in a similar structure, they become the general director and the owner of the company. And this company directly owns the land. There is a legal entity owned by the investor who owns the company and the house that was built as well. That's it. It's a completely normal and functional scheme. But here, just like with apartments, there is also the option to arrange a lease. And with this particular developer, the lease is in principle, well, in no way different from full ownership.
Let me remind our viewers that leasing is a long-term rental, meaning it is not full ownership. It is specifically a long-term lease for several years. But there are also certain advantages, right?
Yes. Well, you see, rental isn't quite the correct term. I prefer, well, yes, it is translated into Russian as rental, leasing. But I actually prefer the term time-limited ownership, right? So in this case, you buy a villa, you lease the land, and the lease is for 90 years, for several decades, 3 periods of 30 years each. So you bought this villa, this beauty, you owned it for 10 years, and then you can resell it to me. I buy it, and I get another 90 years, so the term resets. And what's interesting about this whole is that you have absolutely all the rights of an owner. You can sell this villa, you can sell the land with it, you can do that. This ownership right is inheritable. So accordingly, if something happens to the person, the heirs will receive the villa and the land with a new, renewed term. You can also gift this villa. In other words, you have absolutely all the rights of an owner. And here it's important that this term resets again for the new owner. So overall, for investments, especially with reliable developers, with people who actually own the land, I don't see any issues with leasing. I myself have all sorts of real estate like that, so...
There are no risks at all. Let me clarify once again for our viewers. Even if your ownership is arranged as a lease, you can, for example, resell this property to one of your relatives. And the countdown starts from 0. Your lease period begins anew. We touched on the topic of inheritance. So all property, whether it's full ownership or a lease, can be inherited. I've heard that it's better to make a will so that, let's say, the process goes more smoothly.
Yes, well, of course, it's always a difficult situation emotionally, no matter what. And the best option is definitely to make a will. It costs about $300. That's not expensive, and it will make things easier for the heirs later on. So the best approach is to come buy the property and make a will right away. But even if you don't do that, even if you don't make a will, the process will just take longer and be a bit more complicated for the heirs. That is, you will need to inherit the property rights in your own country, translate the documents into English, and bring them here to a local lawyer. And this procedure will drag on for about a year, maybe a little more. But nevertheless, the property will still be transferred to the legal heirs, the rightful owners, even if there is no will. Well, that would be the ideal scenario, right?
Yes, that's great. And it's actually a very relevant topic, especially in light of recent events in some countries. And everyone remembers the case with the tsunami in Thailand. So is it worth insuring property?
Well, that's a matter of individual choice. And here everyone decides for themselves. In principle, the likelihood of such an event happening again is close to 0. So I believe there's really no need for it. But again, if someone wants to do it, we understand how it works. We have cases where people insure apartments that are located close to the sea. For example, for a small apartment, it costs around $200 to $250, depending on the value and the size of the villa. We are about 6 kilometers from the sea right now. It's highly unlikely that tsunami would reach here, even if one were to occur. But again, if having this insurance would give someone peace of mind, you're welcome. We can help arrange it. It won't be $200 here. The price for a villa like this is significantly higher than for an apartment. So depends on the value in this case. But again, being farther from the sea will lower the rate. So yes, it's possible, but I don't see any point in it.
Well, it seems we've discussed all the questions about the application process. If we've forgotten anything, please leave your comments below. All our contact information will also be listed below this video. You can leave your contact details, and we will definitely get in touch with you. And now, as we've mentioned several times already, we're in a very beautiful place. This villa is truly stunningly beautiful. And now we'll take a walk around and show and tell you everything in detail.
Yes, the villa is really awesome. In my opinion, it's one of the best projects on the island. Let's go.
All right, let's go take a look.
Yes, this is the main bedroom, the master bedroom. The size is just astonishing. I don't know, it feels like it's about 60 square meters. That's if you just...
The most important thing is the ceiling height. Notice how the ceilings here are very high and the doors are huge. Here they are not yet huge. In the, what's it called? The living room.
Let me help. Here, by the way, there's a really cool idea in terms of combining this space. It's done like this, the pants turn into this, so to speak. Does it work, right?
I won't be able to open it.
Well, that's 5 years of experience, 5 years living on the island. It wasn't for nothing, especially in this kind of weather.
And you get direct access to the pool.
Exactly. It's really great, yes. It's a compact apartment, but the bedroom is actually huge. And look, there's a lot of natural materials, a lot of wood, and this combination of modern style with a touch of classic is really, really cool, guys.
Wait a second. What's included in the price? Is the furniture included or just the finishing?
The price includes full furnishing. Everything you see is included, but you can also negotiate a furniture package, all right? But as for closing things up, it'll probably take me another 3 years to learn how to do that, but we'll figure that out later after filming. Yes, the finishing, the furnishing, everything is included in the price. Large villa with 4 bedrooms and about 300 square meters of space just under the roof.
And plus there's also the outdoor area.
Plus the outdoor area. Here it's about 700 square meters, just about 700, which by the standards of our compatriots isn't much, but here it's considered a large plot, including that area over there.
We'll definitely take a walk around the grounds as well. And most importantly...
Yes. In the master bedroom, yes, you show it, and I'll try to figure out the doors in the meantime.
Everything is done in such natural, warm tones. Honestly, the design, the interior design, I think it would suit absolutely everyone. A huge bathroom. There's not only a bathtub, but of course a shower as well. And the main advantage is that there are 2 sinks.
Let's go, we'll show the living room. Well, actually, there's another very important point here regarding the market. We've been here for about an hour already and can't catch a moment when there's no one around.